A luxury cruise ship, what was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime, suddenly and without warning turned into a floating prison in the middle of the ocean. Passengers are collapsing one after another, and panic is taking over everyone. Worse still, every nation refused to receive them and denied their ship permission to dock in its ports, leaving them stranded at sea, only to discover later that the culprit was a 70-year-old virus that made its way from a landfill all the way into the corridors of the ship. This raises the most critical question: could this virus be the spark for a new global pandemic? Are we truly threatened with a return to the days of quarantine and lockdowns that we have yet to forget? How does this virus even transmit in the first place? And why, exactly, do scientists tremble at something called the Lambda strain? But before we dive in, if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. At the beginning of April 2026, a cruise ship set sail from Argentina toward Antarctica, carrying 150 passengers of various nationalities. The journey began in a pleasant and joyous atmosphere, but this tranquility did not last long. 5 days later, an elderly Dutch passenger suddenly fell ill, suffering from a fever, headache, and mild diarrhea. His condition then deteriorated into severe shortness of breath, leading to his death on board the ship on April 11th. Although the crew announced the news, no one knew the true cause of death, and the passengers did not worry much at first, continuing to enjoy their trip, unaware of the nightmare awaiting them. On April 24, the ship stopped at the island of St. Helena so the deceased man's wife could disembark with her husband's body to head to South Africa. There, and before boarding her flight to Amsterdam, she suddenly collapsed and passed away. Meanwhile, the infection began spreading inside the ship, where a German woman contracted it and died a few days later. Mystery and anxiety filled the air, and no one understood the secret behind these consecutive deaths. On May 2, the World Health Organization intervened, and tests revealed the culprit, a virus called Hanta, a lethal virus that kills nearly half of those it infects. And worse still, it remains without a vaccine or treatment to this day. The stricken ship became the talk of the world, and countries refused to receive it for fear of infection, while experts tried to contain the situation. What is truly alarming is that this virus is not new. Scientists have known about it for 70 years, and it appeared in past wars where it infected thousands of soldiers, yet it remained without a cure throughout these decades. Hantavirus is not just a single strain, but a family of viruses transmitted by rodents, causing 2 serious illnesses in humans depending on the region. In Asia and Europe, it causes a fever that leads to bleeding and kidney failure, while in the Americas, it causes a pulmonary syndrome that fills the lungs with fluid, leading to suffocation and death, with a mortality rate reaching up to 50% for this type. The terrifying reality is that no official vaccine or treatment exists for this deadly virus. So far, all doctors can do is support the body to endure it, while the responsibility of completely eradicating the virus falls entirely on the immune system. The story of its discovery began in the 1950s during the Korean War, when 3,000 American soldiers fell ill with a mysterious disease that caused kidney failure and killed many. At the time, doctors were baffled as to whether it was a natural illness or a chemical weapon, and this secret remained a mystery for 30 years before the truth was uncovered. In 1980, the Korean scientist Ho-Wang revealed that rats were the source of the disease and named it Hanta after the Hantan River. But the most horrifying story occurred in 1993 in America, when 10 healthy young people from the Navajo tribe died suddenly and mysteriously. The disease was killing its victims in just a single day after filling their lungs with fluid. Most surprisingly, all the victims were perfectly healthy young individuals. The illness would begin with a flu-like fever. Then fluid would suddenly flood the lungs, bringing death abruptly, with the mortality rate at the time reaching 75%, leaving scientists completely baffled and helpless before this deadly secret. The tribe's elders informed scientists that they knew this disease very well, revealing that the illness was linked to heavy rainfall. When it rains heavily, pine nuts increase, leading to a population explosion among the rats that feed on them. Consequently, the virus spreads among them and then transmits to humans. Scientists confirmed the validity of this account in 1993, finding that the El Niño climate phenomenon was the cause, as the torrential rains triggered massive rodent breeding, leading to the outbreak of this new strain of hantavirus. El Niño is a natural warming of the Pacific Ocean waters that recurs every few years, causing global atmospheric disruptions such as floods, droughts, and rising global temperatures. For a long time, scientists believed that India was free of hantavirus, but recent studies have proven the existence of confirmed infections, particularly among warehouse workers and rat catchers. And researchers discovered that many people had previously contracted the virus without their knowledge, confirming its actual presence in rodent-infested environments. As for the most critical discovery, it was the shift in previous scientific convictions. While it was believed that the virus was transmitted only from rats to humans, an outbreak in Argentina in 1996 proved a shocking truth: the virus can transmit from human to human. And the culprit behind this contagion is the Andes virus, the only strain of the Hanta family that spreads between humans. Reassuringly, however, it does not spread through the air like COVID or the flu. Rather, it requires very close and direct physical contact, such as caring for a patient or touching their bodily fluids, which is why infections are mostly confined to members of the same household. Nevertheless, the danger window for the transmission of the virus remains very narrow, as an infected person is only contagious at the very beginning of their illness, and for approximately 1 day only. It turned out that this ship was carrying the Andes strain, which transmits between humans, while the source of the infection was a Dutch couple who had visited a rat-infested landfill in Argentina just before boarding the ship. Had they delayed boarding the ship by just 2 days, the disaster would not have occurred because the transmission period is very short, only 1 day. However, entering the ship immediately after their infection led to the spread of the virus, and they were the first victims of this outbreak. By May 10th, infections on the ship rose to 10 cases and 3 deaths, with several patients transferred to hospitals in South Africa, the Netherlands, and Switzerland. The ship remained stranded at sea after African nations refused to receive it, until Spain finally allowed it to dock in the Canary Islands, where everyone was evacuated and comprehensive testing began to contain the infected individuals. And now comes the most important question: will hantavirus become a global pandemic? The answer is highly unlikely for 2 reasons. First, an infected person transmits the virus for only 1 day, unlike COVID, which transmits it for weeks. And second, it does not spread through the air, but only through direct touch. The World Health Organization has confirmed that its global risk remains low. Although the virus does not pose a global pandemic threat, it remains terrifying because half of those who contract it die, and climate fluctuations El Niño may increase rodent populations this year. Hantavirus is a silent danger that has existed for decades, but it only draws attention when many deaths occur. Imagine you are on board a cruise ship and learn of an infection with this virus. What is the first thing you would do? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. This brings us to the end of the video. Thank you for watching.